A Rhode Island nightclub erupts into flames. Hundreds of people run for their lives.
And I turned around and I said, get out, get to the door, get to the door. And people just stood there. Anybody inside?
Nearly 100 people couldn't get out fast enough.
There's only one thing to do, either jump over and try to get out or stay here and die.
Tonight, the investigation, the tears, and the anguish.
The 80s band Great White had just taken the stage at the station in West Warwick, Rhode Island, when the pyrotechnics shot up into the ceiling, setting the soundproofing foam on fire. Good evening, I'm Karen Marinella.
And I'm Frank Malika. With no sprinkler system, the entire building was fully engulfed in just 3 minutes. Even though there were 4 emergency exits, most ran for the door they came in, trampling each other on the way, jumping out of windows, looking for safety in the bathrooms. Some died of burns. Others, the intense black smoke.
We have every angle of this story covered. We're going to begin with Laura Clarizio, who's live on the scene tonight in West Warwick. Laura?
Well, Karen and Frank, as you can imagine, this has been an extremely long and painful day here down in West Warwick. Throughout the day, family and friends have been coming down to the scene, searching for loved ones. Some brought photos, hoping people would recognize them. One man that I talked to, he was curled up on the curb. He had tears in his eyes, and he looked up at me and he said, I just feel so guilty because I was supposed to be there last night, and I canceled. And now I've lost both my best friends.
Within moments of taking the stage at the station nightclub in West Warwick, flames erupted. The pyrotechnic effects were supposed to be part of the rock band Great White show, but the effects turned deadly.
When I turned around, some people were already trying to leave, and others were just sitting there going, yeah, that's great. And I remember that statement because I was like, this is not great. This is time to leave.
Local news photographer Brian Butler was reportedly covering a story about nightclub safety, a follow-up to the stampede at a Chicago bar this week.
Once we all started turning toward the door and we got bottlenecked into the front door, people just kept pushing, and eventually everyone popped out of the door, including myself.
Fire officials say the lights quickly went out and hundreds scrambled in the dark to get to the 4 exit doors. Many busted through windows to make it out alive.
There were people on the ground laying there trying to crawl to get out, and I pulled maybe 2 or 3 more. One girl, she was reaching for me and begging for me not to let her go, and I didn't. I just kept pulling as hard as I could, and then I pulled another gentleman, and people are coming out on fire.
Investigators say the nightclub was fully torched within a matter of 3 minutes.
You're no business putting off pyrotechnics in that building, as far as I can say. So somebody made a bad decision.
We're back now live at the scene here in West Warwick that can only be described as extremely dismal. Right now, the governor says that they will be working 24/7 to sift through the rubble to try and figure out what went wrong and to see who's to blame. Live in West Warwick, Laura Clarizio for the 10 o'clock.
Young children play.
3 children recovering tonight after a day of play turns into a nightmare for the kids and their parents. The hunt is on tonight for those responsible for a playground attack that landed 3 kids in the hospital.
And tonight, Canton police say someone turned a water bottle into a bomb and let it inside a jungle gym. Laura Clarizio spoke exclusively with the victim's family, who tonight warned other parents about possible dangers on the playground.
What happened to you in the jungle gym yesterday?
There's a bomb.
There was a bomb? Yes, somebody made a fake bomb, huh?
3-year-old Robbie Van Ziel and his twin sisters are in good spirits today. But yesterday, while playing at Duval Field in Canton, they were burned while climbing through this jungle gym tube.
What happened when you touched it? How did it feel?
Yucky.
Police say that's because someone blew up this water bottle and left corrosive chemicals inside the tube.
My son went through it and came out crying that he was being stung.
Robbie's leg is now blistered, but yesterday his mom says it was completely red. His sisters suffered burns on their feet.
We take this very seriously. It has to be a sick person that would do this at a playground where unsuspecting young children would go to play.
Fire officials say the bottle that exploded was probably about this size. Kathy tells us her husband has an engineering background, and because of that, he surmised the chemicals were toxic. So the two of them ran their children to the playground bathroom and quickly rinsed them off. And you think by her washing it off helped save them from further burns?
Yes, because that would limit the time of exposure to the material.
The Van Ziels are visiting from South Africa and say this experience has changed their outlook.
And, you expect the place that your young children play to be safe. And for us as parents, we'll just be much more vigilant about, what's in the sandbox, what's in the tunnels, the quality of the area before we let them play.
The family credits the town's quick response for their children's safety. Town officials say they have sealed off and decontaminated the tube, but they also plan to replace it. In Canton, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Now the state's fire marshal.
They weren't like little shotguns or anything. They were big guns.
And those guns were pointed right at her, the innocent victim of a terrifying home invasion. Police say 3 men wearing masks and waving guns busted right into her house, robbed her, and then took off. They're still on the loose right now. Laura Clarizio has been following the story. She's live in Revere with the latest. Laura?
Frank, some very scary moments here in Revere. Tonight we hear firsthand from that victim who describes how these men entered her home, demanding money and threatening lives.
They look like the guns that they used on the Terminator. That's how big they were. They look like machine guns. I don't even think these guys could carry them. They were so heavy. They were big guns.
Cheryl Metcalf is describing how 3 masked men broke into her Fairfield Street home in Revere around 1:30 this afternoon.
Came in the house and they, give me your money, give me your money. Oh my God, it was awful. I couldn't believe it.
Cheryl says she and her neighbor Christian Zingarello watched in fear as the men ransacked her first-floor bedroom, then stole $800 to $900 from Zingarello.
I just ran. I ran up the back stairs and called the police.
Cheryl says she often leaves her screen door unlocked, and that's how they came in. Police say 4 men fled in the stolen car, then dumped it less than a mile away on Ward and Charger streets.
We have witnesses that observed them get into another vehicle.
Cheryl says she often helps out troubled teens, and she is not sure if this is someone she knew. But she says what she does know is how fearful she felt.
I didn't think I was going to die, though. I didn't think I was going to die.
But it was pretty frightful.
It was.
Now, police tell us that some eyewitnesses say they actually saw the 4 men get out of that silver car we just showed you and simply walk away towards a nearby shopping center. They also say that 2 others came to the car and retrieved the weapons. So at this hour, all 6 are at large. Live in Revere, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Thanks, Laura. Police have made an arrest and
More on these unbelievable allegations.
I felt it was very wrong. My children were very upset about it.
The 4th graders of Elliott Elementary School in Boston upset after they say Principal Antoinette Brady forced them to cheat on the language arts portion of their MCAS exams back in May.
They were told they had to do it by a person who's in authority, and I think that's such an egregious use of authority.
Jennifer Day says the principal asked her to leave the classroom. When she returned, students told her they added or changed answers to work done on previous days. At her request, the 4th graders wrote out what happened. One writes, she said, check your answers again. Another says, she said, don't give it to me until it's perfect.
The issue around whether the principal allegedly acted overzealously here is to be determined.
Reaction from parents is mixed.
I think it's absolute hogwash. I think somebody's setting somebody up.
I mean, I have a real issue with the principal here. I've gone to the school board committee quite a few times on this principal.
Jennifer Day says shortly after reporting the incident to the Department of Education, she was laid off. However, the superintendent's office says back in January, she knew she was not tenured.
All I'm doing is helping my children understand that if somebody does something like this, you have to come forward and you have to pay whatever price.
As of today, Principal Brady is on paid administrative leave pending this investigation. If found guilty, she could face anywhere from a letter of reprimand to dismissal. In Boston, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
The superintendent's office has been accused by an arsonist. Laura Clarizio talks to the family and to investigators trying to crack this case.
That chilling message, I'm on fire, left last Friday on Cheryl Picard's voicemail. 4 days later, early Tuesday morning, her family business, Spencer Billiards, went up in flames.
To have something torn apart and on top of that burnt down for something that we've been working so hard, it is devastation. It is.
But the Baccards say their fire is only half the story. Several hours later, Cheryl Wolf, a co-worker and close friend, fell victim to a second fire.
It's just very creepy. You know, I have the creeps.
Tuesday afternoon, Cheryl Wolf returned here to McDonald Street to her fourth-floor apartment. That's when she says she discovered a message of her own, one that said, "Die, die, die, you're all gonna burn." Shortly after, her apartment was on fire. And while all of this was happening, Cheryl Picard says she received yet another message.
Plan 2 is still in operation. If you get a chance, give me a buzz. Thank you so much.
Do you believe they're connected?
Definitely. They are definitely connected. And Cheryl is connected to me.
So you think they got Cheryl to get to you?
Yes, I do.
But fire officials are not as convinced.
At this point, we have not made a connection between the two fires.
Officials say they are reviewing the taped messages. When asked if they found accelerants at either scene, they would not comment. In Spencer, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Now, Cheryl says her insurance lapsed a month ago, so she'll have to.
In East Boston this morning, neighbors on board.
Rain and wicked winds, but wild weekend weather in Rentham has folks there wondering if what they saw was a tornado. This after a fast-moving storm sent trees into homes, even sparked a fire. Laura Clarizio has more.
Residents in Rentham say this is the worst storm they've ever seen. Within 40 seconds, they say 70-mile-an-hour winds kicked in. Some say it looked like a tornado. And today they began cleaning up. Chainsaws abuzz throughout the day around Lake Archer in Rentham. Residents say yesterday's storm whipped in and out in less than a minute.
It was as wild a storm as I've ever seen, and it was almost tornadic.
The gusting winds sent a tree into this nearby home, splitting it in two. The home is up for sale, so no one was inside. Glenn Schiebler says the wind was so loud, he never heard the crash.
And it literally was about 20 seconds of just pandemonium. And I've never seen winds like that before.
The trees suffered most of the damage, but some electrical lines may later be affected.
Once that tree comes down, those wires are gone.
Over here on the other side of the lake, take a look for yourself. This tree completely uprooted. It crashed into a garage and then into the bedroom of an elderly woman. Neighbors here tell us she was inside when it happened, but she was not injured.
She was sitting on a bed. She was just kind of drying her hair.
Okay.
And she said, "Oh, dear."
That's the head of St. Francis. The tree came down and smashed him to bits.
This statue didn't make it, but the homeowner says the trees just missed his car.
We left, and 10 minutes later, I guess, or 15 minutes later, the tree came down.
It must have been burning for at least over an hour.
A few doors down, an electric line crashed down, sparking a fire along this retaining wall.
It was frightening. It was just scary. Thank heaven nothing really bad happened and we're all alive.
Despite all the damage we just showed you, police say there were no reports of any injuries. Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, what a Boston, where parishioners saying they were duped by the Archdiocese, but at their last Mass today, what some see as a sign from God to keep their church doors open. Laura Clarizio now explains.
All of these church closings have been emotional for parishioners. But today, right after the final Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel, a heavy statue fell, and some took this as a warning.
This is a miracle.
She fell?
She fell.
She fell back.
She fell backwards.
Nobody was near her.
Nobody was near her.
Some took this as a sign from above. The heavy 100-year-old Madonna statue fell from its platform onto the altar.
Mom, she's Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Keep the church open. Keep the church open.
Some had already hugged the statue goodbye, but witnesses say no one was around when it toppled over.
All of a sudden we heard a giant thump. We turned around. No one was around her.
Emotions ran high today. For many, this is the first church their families came to when they emigrated from Italy. Now it's the 29th to close.
My uncles and my brothers and everybody else after came to this church, my grandchildren, everything, and now they're taking it away. Why? These poor Italian people that come here, they have nothing, nothing.
Some parishioners did consider a sit-in to keep the doors opened here at Mount Carmel, but then an agreement was reached. This convent directly across the street will remain open. However, there's a lot of confusion over how it will be used. Today, parishioners found out that it will mainly be for educational purposes, and once renovations are done, a chapel will be open. But it's unclear if masses will ever be heard here.
Maybe what I said was confusing. Maybe what I said didn't make sense to people. But I made it clear that we would look at doing a daily mass there as soon as we can get the chapel running.
So there's a possibility of a daily mass.
There is a 100% possibility that a daily mass chapel could be going in there.
But for some, that possibility does not provide enough hope. And as Father Francis de Sales Paulo said goodbye to his faithful, he too felt the pain. He'll now transfer to Buzzards Bay.
But this is an emotional day for you.
It is, certainly is. It certainly is, yeah. And I've been crying right during the service.
We did speak with a spokesperson for the diocese today, and they say Bishop O'Malley is open to reconsidering some of the church closings if new information comes forward. Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Okay, Laura, thanks. Well, it is the story
Hoping once and for all the curse will be reversed. Hours, even days outside Fenway, hoping to be a part of history, even if they can't get a seat at the series. Laura Clarizio now with more on all this fan frenzy.
Every city likes to boast they have the greatest fans, but after all of these years of hanging in there and hoping to reverse the curse, Red Sox fans are proving they are among the best.
God bless the Red Sox, baby. We're going #1 this year. World Series. Woo!
The fan frenzy at Fenway hit an all-time high. Lines, lines, and more lines.
No, not World Series tickets. No. What can you say, though? We're here. We're close.
The tickets for a ballpark tour. But those, well, you might say a little more idealistic, waited for World Series tickets. George Odell's first in line. He's been camped out since 9 a.m. Thursday. Well, George, I hope you get in. And you're getting in.
I'm getting in.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Yes.
You deserve it. You waited a very long time.
Yes, I did. But well worth the wait. Well worth the wait. To be part of history like this is just going to be awesome.
Red Sox!
To pass the time, some played games, fantasized about being on the team, and others snoozed. That is until we showed up.
Good morning to you.
And in the midst of Red Sox Nation, we did spot some Cardinals circling around.
Do we have another St. Louis fan?
Big time.
I wouldn't say that too loud. Right across the street, right over there, we've got a crowd of Red Sox fans.
I know, I see that.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
All right, let me hear you say it again then.
St. Louis!
You're a brave man.
That, of course, prompted response from diehard Red Sox fans.
Because they're going to lose.
No, they won't be able to hit anything in St. Louis.
But the overwhelming Sox crowd didn't seem to intimidate Cardinal fans.
Are you on the phone to St. Louis?
I'm on the phone to St. Louis.
Talking while online at the Red Sox souvenir shop.
Your brother saying go Cardinals on the phone to me from St. Louis.
This is true.
But the truth is, Red Sox fans are out in full force.
You've been here forever. Have you ever seen it this crazy?
Never. Throughout all my years, I've never, ever seen it this crazy. We've lived through 67, 75, 78, 86. By far, this is the craziest it's ever been.
Those of all ages hoping history will not repeat itself.
Let me say go Red Sox.
Go Red Sox.
Do you like the Yankees?
Yeah. No.
No, you're supposed to say no on that. Do you like the Cardinals?
Yeah.
No.
No, you're supposed to. Do you like the Red Sox?
Yeah.
So he did get it on the third try, and you know the old saying, that's the charm. Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Laura Clarizio inciting the natives outside of Fenway today. An Everett man has 2 seats. 2 members of the Stoughton Police Department could face jail time. The controversy goes straight to the top, to the chief of police and one of his sergeants. As Laura Clarizio reports, this isn't the first time the chief's been in hot water.
This is not the first time the chief of police in Stoughton has come under fire. Back in June, when his contract expired, 2 town selectmen voted not to re-sign him. However, based on that vote, the town held a recall election, and those selectmen were voted out of office.
Emotions erupted inside Stoughton Town Hall as the Board of Selectmen named Christopher Ciampa acting chief of police. The town in turmoil on Friday after a grand jury indicted Police Chief Manuel Cachopa on 3 counts and Sergeant David Cohen on 7 counts. Sergeant Cohen is also an attorney.
The citizens of Stoughton, in my opinion, are entitled to a honest and corrupt-free police department. And we feel that the allegations are very serious. What has occurred, what we believe has occurred, is very serious.
Among the charges against the chief and sergeant, witness intimidation and abuse of power.
He's just waiting to see what's going to happen. Obviously, it's happened. The indictments came down, and he's prepared to fight for his rights.
Today, selectmen held an emergency meeting, voting to place the officers on paid administrative leave.
When it involves people's lives, their livelihood and families, nothing is an easy decision with me.
The indictments against the chief of police and Sergeant Cohen stem in part from a Canton businessman who claimed Sergeant Cohen falsely arrested him. He then says the chief tried to coerce him into dropping charges he filed against Sergeant Cohen.
And everybody felt like you got hit with a pole or something. It hurt really bad to hear that it happened. It was something that we thought was just going to go away because we knew that a lot of this stuff is bogus.
But some residents say the problems with the thin blue line are real.
I've been living this for over 2 years. And when you are targeted by the police department, your family's targeted by the police department.
Your family was targeted?
Is a living hell, and I have been living it. And hooray, hooray for Jabor.
The two former selectmen who did not want to re-sign the chief say there had been trouble in the department and they had problems communicating with him. However, they would not elaborate if these indictments were part of that problem. Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
A bullet landed.
Coming home to a hero's welcome.
An explosion of emotions at the first glimpse of their heroes. Hundreds gathered at the Boxborough Holiday Inn to welcome home members of the 323rd Maintenance Company. They spent 13 months fighting in Iraq, so when the 180 soldiers were formally dismissed, their loved ones showed their appreciation.
You haven't seen each other for 13 months. What do you want to say to your husband now that he's right here in front of you?
I love him more than ever, and I can't believe he's finally home.
What do you want to say to your daddy after all this time?
I love him.
You glad he's back?
Yes.
Oh, they're happy tears.
Yeah, she's very brave, both of them. I love them both for holding on till I got back.
Most of the soldiers echoed the same sentiment, feeling overwhelmed at being back with their loved ones and back on U.S. soil.
What is it that you want the American people to know?
That we're making a difference of what we're doing and try to help the Iraqi people as much as we can.
The 323rd's mission was to provide maintenance support on various missions. No one was killed or seriously injured during their tour, and 5 soldiers received Bronze Stars.
The troops are weary and worn, and it's overwhelming over there. It's a very dangerous place. It's unbelievable. But the troops are working real hard.
But now these citizen soldiers have a chance to enjoy life back home with loved ones. In Boxborough, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Very emotional.
Maura's been missing since February. Today we go out searching with a father who won't give up. That story coming up.
At 10:18, a deadly fire rips through a New York City.
To give up the search. Maura Murray was last seen in February. Police say there are no signs of foul play in her disappearance, but tonight her family says they won't give up until they have some answers. Here's Laura Clarizio.
And Dave, why don't you go up around the corner here, and I'll go up this way, and we'll see what we get.
Fred Murray refuses to give up. No matter how daunting the task, he's determined to find his daughter.
Ramble down here, I guess.
February 9th, Maura Murray crashed into this tree in Haverhill, New Hampshire. Since then, there's been no signs of the 21-year-old UMass nursing student. Police say this is still just a missing persons case, but her family believes she's been abducted.
It would be very easy just to go over that banking, and then there's just heavy brush there.
You think somebody may have just dumped her?
Yes.
Since her disappearance, every weekend her family searches wooded terrain within 10 miles of the crash site.
On the other side of the pit, and I found these two things. I marked the spots.
Dave LaChance runs a search company and has volunteered his time and expertise.
This is one of the few places that has easy access off of a main road.
There are many false alarms, like the discovery of this broken shovel and a foul odor in the distance.
There's the leg right there. See the leg?
It turns out to be a dead cow, but the reality of what could have been is overwhelming.
I'm going to be scared stiff that I find her. And I don't want to find her, but I have to look.
Butch Atwood lives right down the road from where the accident happened. We spoke with him today. He says he did talk with Maura right after it happened. He says he offered her some help, but she refused, so he went back to his house to call police. And by the time they arrived, she was gone.
I do believe it was a local, resident and bad guy, and I think it's going to take another local to bag him.
Even though this week locals complained to authorities about the family's search, and behavioral police threatened to arrest them if they are caught trespassing.
Is it disappointing that you got that letter, or how were you feeling?
It was disappointing because I was kind of hoping that the police would help me find my daughter.
And as he looks out over the vast terrain, a plea for help.
It's going to take more than me right now this afternoon to find that. I got a more likely spot, but that could be. That's the frustration of it. Needle in a haystack is worse than that. So I'm going to see if I can get some help. That's all I can do. Now, let's try another spot.
In Haverhill, New Hampshire, Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
Fred Murray is hoping police and local...
And as Laura Clarizio reports tonight, his friends and family are mourning the loss.
John Harsh's family tells me he lived for his prize show dogs, and though extremely saddened, they say they're not surprised he died for them.
Oh, he loved his dogs. That's all he had. I never thought it would come to this.
John Harsh's older brother David says when rescuers found him in the Mashpee Wakeby Pond, he was 500 feet from shore, floating face down in the icy water.
He sacrificed his life for them.
Around 9:45 this morning, John Harsh took 2 of his 6 prize show dogs out for a walk.
This one here is still wet, as you can see.
Family members believe 9-month-old Toby wandered onto the ice, and that's when John chased after him. Firefighters say when they arrived, one of the Samoyeds had made his way to shore.
He was barely crying. The other dog that was in the water was screaming unbelievably loud. It was eerie to hear that from a dog.
Fire officials say the other was clinging to the ice, watching his owner clinging to life.
Basically holding onto the shelf, the ice shelf. With
the dog was?
Yeah. The problem was the dog had a leash attached to its neck, and the leash had wrapped around its hind leg, so it couldn't even support itself or help me get him out of the water.
David Harsh says he and his brother have been raising the dogs for 9 years and routinely walk them around the Wakeby Pond.
I still can't believe it happened. I'm just in a state of shock. Because, we've been walking these dogs down there for 5 years, and we haven't had a problem like that.
Fire officials want to send out a strong warning tonight, especially this time of the year, to stay off of the ice. They say if you have a pet and it goes off onto the ice, the best thing to do is to call for help so they can get proper equipment to you. Laura Clarizio, the 10 o'clock news.
And we're following a developing story
on WB 56.
Did operators of a Cape Cod booze cruise tell guests to throw beer and drugs overboard before helping a drowning woman? Our investigation says yes. Underage drinking and a booze cruise made for a deadly concoction last summer. Good evening, I'm Karen Marinella.
And I'm Jeff Barn. Last July, Catherine Kinsella fell overboard and drowned in the waters off Cape Cod. Police say she was drinking. But now we're learning shocking new details surrounding her death. And Laura Clarizio has this exclusive story. Laura?
Well, Karen and Jeff, today we did obtain this report from a Barnstable hearing officer, and it confirms operators of the Sea Genie had no liquor license when they served booze to underage drinkers last summer. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now witnesses say operators of the boat were more concerned with saving themselves than saving a life.
I heard a scream. I'm sure she was saying help or whatever, but you couldn't really make out words.
Passengers on board the Sea Genie say cries for help were the last words Catherine Kinsella uttered. Last July, the 20-year-old and 54 others boarded a booze cruise expecting to party. That party ended in tragedy When the young woman from Ireland fell overboard, she died. Now witnesses tell us they believe crew members didn't do enough to save her.
And how long before they called the Coast Guard?
I would say 30 minutes.
We tracked down 2 women from Dublin who were on board the Sea Genie that night.
But I think they wanted to cover their own backs because they had people underage drinking on board.
Authorities say Cord Shore and his father were in charge of the Sea Genie that night. Passengers tell us after Catherine fell overboard, they instructed crew members to get rid of the booze before doing anything else. Yvonne O'Brien says some crew members were given flashlights to search for Catherine, but says that was not enough.
But they were only like small torches. They weren't powerful enough to be able to even see anything properly.
We spoke with a man named David Crosby who says he worked for the Shores last summer and was on board the Sea Genie the night Catherine Kinsella died. He says her death was a tragedy and he was sorry he was ever a part of it. Although he did not want to go on camera, we did obtain his sworn testimony from a Barnstable town hearing. In it, he says, quote, "I hear clear as day, help me, clear as day." Question, over what kind of period of time? Answer, after about 15 minutes I heard it, and again about 10 to 15 minutes I heard it. When asked what was happening on board the boat, he answers, total confusion. The Shores were telling us to get the beer cans off the boat. He had told me he'd thrown the marijuana off the boat.
Did you see what's been said in the transcripts?
We caught up with Cord Shore at his Barnstable home.
One of your workers said that Catherine was crying for help and that nobody helped her. You were throwing beer off. And I just want to make sure we're being fair.
The Coast Guard will tell us all crew members passed drug and alcohol tests that night. They will not comment further on the investigation. Meantime, those who witnessed Catherine's death are outraged.
I thought it was terrible, absolutely unacceptable, disgraceful.
Sources tell us a grand jury is reviewing Catherine Kinsella's death. However, the U.S. Attorney's Office will not confirm that tip. Meantime, the Kinsella's family has hired an attorney, but at this point, she did not want to comment on our story.
All right, Laura. Good job.
Thank you, Laura. A man's dead tonight. He apparently fell off in East Boston.
Part of us. And Fritz, we will see you soon. And I want to thank our special talented musicians who've joined us along the way. Peter Yarrow is not here tonight. He's been part of this journey. And Carole King over here has done such a great job. And Moby and Max Weinberg and Tom DeLong, they have all been enormous. And I want us all to thank each of our fellow Democratic candidates who've run, because they have conducted a vigorous contest, and I particularly want to thank the young people who have come into each of their campaigns, the activists and volunteers who love this country and are so much a part of making our party strong and bold. And most of all, I want to thank you, the people of New Hampshire, who voted for me today, who kept your minds and hearts open, because today you voted for new help in the United States of America, and I intend to help provide it. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you.